And we are live on a very special edition of John Crump Live, which we'll be talking about a draconian bill that is introduced in Pennsylvania. And we actually have a special guest who knows all about Pennsylvania law and another guy that knows a lot about 3D printed firearms. Look what I made, a new business card holder. All right, so let's go ahead and bring on Rich, who is my co-host. We're just going to get right into it. We are broadcasting on John Crump Live and John Crump News today, plus the Facebook page,
See,
Black Fawn Media
Facebook
page. Yeah, the Black Fawn Media Facebook page, the Twitch, the a couple of different X channels, and everything else. But let me introduce you guys know Dark and you guys know Rich, but you might not know Val Fennell. Val Fennell is the state director for Gun Owners of America, who is fighting for the rights of gun owners in the Keystone State. We have worked very closely in the past with companies like JSD Supply, who are good friends of the show, and he definitely supports gun rights, especially gun rights to build your own firearms, whether that be from a 3D printer or from an 80% kit.
Thanks for having me on, John.
No problem. All right, so there is a wacky bill that is probably going to be up for a vote. It's going for its third reading tomorrow, and I have an article coming on MLN.com any minute now, and it's House Bill 777, and it is proposed by a woman out of Pennsylvania who is not definitely not a friend of gun owners, Morgan Cephas, and she wants to ban not only 80% kits like from Polymer 80 or anything, but also 3D printed firearms. And she is blaming violence in Philadelphia instead of blaming District Attorney Larry Krasner for that. And she has 62 co-sponsors, and the Democrats have a very slight margin in the House. But as we have seen, Republicans in Pennsylvania sometimes will cross the line.
Yeah. Yes, the unfortunately for a lot of our Southeast Pennsylvania and Southwest Pennsylvania Republicans, the lilies wilt very easily, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and believe me, that is not an exaggeration. So in 2023, we had universal registration checks and red flag gun confiscation orders pass in the House with the help of 9 Republicans. And
also known as
rhinos.
Rhinos, yes, you can say that. So, yes, one is running for Congress actually in PA 17, and he's a climber. His name's Rob McCurry, and 2 of those Republicans in the Southeast also voted against, constitutional carry last year. So this bill, House Bill 777, was part of a package of bills that was passed, reported. I should be technical about it. Reported from the House Judiciary Committee back in January. And here's the thing that your viewers absolutely need to know: don't believe anything these legislators tell you. So in January they say, "Oh yeah, they passed this this package of bills, but the Democrats have no intent of running them. They're just posturing right now. Well, I didn't believe that for a second. So we saw Josh Shapiro a week or two ago getting on his soapbox about gun control. So I knew something was up. And then we found out that the Democrats, surprise, surprise, are going to run House Bill 777, which is a bill that, like John said, would prohibit you the sale or the transfer of any unserialized parts, and also prevent you from making your own gun unless you were a licensed manufacturer. And it would make you a felon if you did so. So
it's just not like 80% kits, though. It's also 3D printed firearms and also suppressors.
Now, are we
correct?
Just for clarity? Are you referring to, when you say parts? Are you referring to just the receiver, like the firearm portion, or would that impact all parts, like companies that sell slides, barrels, and things like that?
Yeah, more so the frame and the receivers is what's mentioned, but there are other things that are listed in the bill. That's what the problem is. I'd have to go and pull it for you to give you the exact list. There's like 5 or 6 things listed.
That's okay. I was just curious that, because and that could be dangerous. Either way, I'm against all of it.
Yeah.
I was just, for clarity, I was just curious.
Dark runs DLD hardware, which sells gun parts and frames. Not frames, but gun parts and like jigs and stuff
tools,
like that.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. Here is one of the things that I found interesting, and I asked Val, and he wasn't sure. And I've been going around asking everyone, but it doesn't seem like anyone has thought of this, including one of the manufacturers who are like, "Wow, that's definitely interesting." In the language of the bill, it says modular frames have to be serialized.
Ooh.
Which to me sounds like SIGs.
SIG 320s. Strike Industries came out with the new 365.
Right.
320s, 250s. You have the Beretta Nana, the Beretta Pico.
Yeah, a bunch of companies came out with new. That's kind of like the new. I mean, it's not new to the industry, but a bunch of companies came out with newer modular frames.
What scares me, because it says specifically modular frames have to be serialized. And if you know about the 320 and like the 365 and stuff, it's the FCU, the fire control unit, which is serialized.
Yeah.
Right. The actual list, I have it up here, is if a firearm frame or receiver would have to be serialized, a firearm muffler or silencer frame or receiver, a split or modular firearm frame or receiver, or a partially complete, disassembled, or inoperable firearm frame or receiver.
Yeah, the split would be the AR-15.
So are they saying the upper and lower receiver of an AR have to be serialized?
No, I don't think so. This is a gray area, but what I think that they mean is there's an argument saying that since the receiver is split, in California, there was a guy that got off because he's like, neither part fits the definition of firearm.
Which is true.
I think they're trying to head that off. But the modular is kind of what got me. And I've been talking to people all day, and I called Val to get his input on them. And the answer is the same. We just don't know. It's a gray area.
Yeah, that's the problem with this bill. There's a lot of things. Well, there's a lot of problems with one. We're against it just from the fact that it's going to ban you from making your own gun, a right we've had in this country since before the founding. And that's we're against it. And today there was a second reading on the bill. There were 3 amendments, and they were all ruled out of order. Most of those amendments we didn't care about, or that we opposed them. And there was a third amendment that tried to report to an illegal alien that might have had a gun on them to report them to ICE. Regardless, those amendments were all ruled out of order, so there was no debate on the House floor today. So it's going right to third reading tomorrow. So, and John brought up the really interesting point. They're trying to say it's this uptick in crime, violent crime in Philadelphia, and the real problem is their lack of prosecution of crime in Philadelphia because of Soros-funded DA Larry Krasner. I wrote an op-ed back in 2022 for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Here's what one of the paragraphs says in that op-ed. According to an analysis published in this paper during Krasner's tenure, arrests for illegal gun possession have nearly tripled, but conviction rates have fallen from 63% in 2017 to 49% in 2019. So, not only that, shootings and fatal shootings have gone up every year since his election. Last year, and this we're talking 21, saw the highest number of homicides in the city's history, many not using any kind of firearm. Carjackings have more than tripled since 2019, topping out over 720 last year. So there's a crime prosecution problem in Philadelphia. So if you don't prosecute crime, you're going to get more of it. This is used as the scapegoat. This is used as the excuse to attack people who want to build their own firearms, as if there's not another way. Criminals don't obey laws to begin with, right? They're going to get a gun another way. Yep. If they don't make it, they're going to buy it illegally on the street. Still, most of them are bought illegally on the street or they're stolen. So it's to expect a criminal to obey the law is ridiculous. So all this is another step along the way to violate our constitutional rights to make our own firearms, then put more serial numbers on things. You couple that with these 9 Republicans who believe that we should have universal registration checks. And they go, it's not that, it's background checks, right? But if you go back to what the Obama administration Justice Department said, they said UBCs, universal background checks, do not work unless you have a registration system. So this is a step along the way to create UBCs, are a step along the way to create gun registries. That'll be the next argument is, we have to have a registry. This won't work. So that's why we call it universal registration checks. So it's just another way to put more serial numbers on things to continue to erode away at our constitutional rights. And so our message for the 9 Republicans who voted against this is that, you can be upset that we slammed you on it, but I'm sorry, we don't compromise. If you vote for gun control, we're going to tell your constituents that you voted for gun control.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is actually a page that I sent out to everyone out there that GOA has put together to oppose this. And if you're in Pennsylvania, it's very important that you fill this out.
Yes, that's if you live in PA, we have an alert, and you just fill that form out and you'll send a representative or send a message to your state representative. That's what we're really not. And if you're in one of those 9, one of the districts of the 9 Republicans, they get a special message.
Yeah, because that is definitely a problem. Pennsylvania has a problem where Republicans, because you have Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we got Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania. We have Southeast Pennsylvania Republicans like Martina White and Kathleen Tomlinson. I mean, these Tomlinson and White ought to be Democrats in a lot of ways. They voted against constitutional carry. They voted for UBCs. It only takes one Republican, tomorrow to flip, and the bill will pass. Now, fortunately, the Senate is still in the Republican hands, the Republican majority. I don't put a lot of faith in that. The bills will go to the Senate Judiciary Committee that is chaired by Senator Lisa Baker. If you remember, back in 2019, after the El Paso and Dayton shootings, Senator Lisa Baker got scared, had a hearing, lasted a day or two for gun control in Harrisburg. And fortunately, we were able to stop any of those bills from coming out in 2019. So we've been able to put enough pressure on Lisa Baker for her to not bring up those bills for a vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So I always tell people, don't let your guard down. Don't put your faith in the fact that there's a Republican majority in the Senate, because we almost had gun control move in 2019 in the Pennsylvania Senate. Now, supposedly it's going to be okay, but we don't know. But you always have to keep your eyes on things. So we started right when the term started in 2023, when the House flipped to Democrats. We started putting pressure on Lisa Baker to hold the line, and so far she has been holding the line.
No, that is good. Hopefully you can keep pressure, because politicians respond to pressure. There's 2 different types of politics. There's like the get along politics, which is like access-based politics, and there's confrontational politics. And access-based politics is where you cover for the people who you like when they do something wrong. So you think you do it to preserve your access. They might not do everything you like, but they do a lot of stuff that you like. So you cover for them when they do something you don't like. And that's something that I can't buy into. I'm more of a confrontational politic type of guy where it's carrot and stick. And GOA is really a carrot and stick organization where if you do something bad, no matter if you do 100 things that I like and one thing I don't like, I'm still going to call you out on that one thing because in the end, you are compromising and you are compromising with my rights, which you have no right to do,
Yeah.
no authority to do.
That's exactly right. And as we say in the military, when you're over the target when you start to get flack, right? So I've been getting a lot of flack from some of these Republicans, like State Rep Valerie Gatos. We actually pulled her endorsement back, and we endorsed her in 2022. We pulled her endorsement for voting for universal background check gun registration schemes. She's all ticked off about it. And she walked up to me today in the Capitol. It was hysterical. She said, I'm more pro-gun than you are. And I just cracked up. I said, yeah, well, pro-gun representatives don't vote for gun control, especially gun control that can lead to registration of all firearms. This is not this is a laughable statement. They are when politicians are threatened, they react predictably. They will they'll ignore you. If they can't ignore you anymore, they'll try to explain things to you. If they can't explain things to you, they'll start to get angry with you and say that you're hurting the cause. It's a script, and we teach it at confrontational politics. And when they're getting to this level where they're grabbing you in the hallway and they're starting to yell at you and berate you, you know that you're getting to them. It's effective, and they'll tell you it's ineffective. But it is effective, because if it was ineffective, they wouldn't be talking to you. They wouldn't be trying to get you to back off. They wouldn't be trying to say you're hurting the cause. They would just ignore you and say, nah, go away. But really, the fact is they're feeling the heat. It's like Senator Everett Dirksen said, when I feel the heat, I see the light. And so they're starting to see the light. So if all the Republicans hold the line tomorrow, all of them, we have one pro-gun Democrat left in the state house, Frank Burns, that would be a tie vote, and then if the speaker would have to break the tie, which is McClinton. Of course, she's a liberal Democrat, progressive liberal communist Democrat. So she would break the tie. So it's going to be interesting to see if these 9 Republican turncoats will hold the line tomorrow. I've heard different things. Some people say they're going to. Some people they say they don't. I don't put any stock in what they tell me. Like I said, back in January, they're telling us, oh, the Democrats are just posturing. They're not going to run these bills. I knew that was wrong. I knew they were going to do it. It's an election year. They're going to try to bring things up. So
yeah. We have a question from Fearless Orca Tactical. There is something called the Makers Match. I'm not sure if the Gun Makers Match. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but it's a gun competition where people run their homemade firearms, and that is every year in Pennsylvania. This would basically shut that down.
Yeah, it would. You wouldn't be able to make, sell, or transfer your own firearm, your own homemade firearm, unless you bought one that was already serialized, right? So it would require the serialization of them to be sold in the state.
So Val, I got a question. Let's just do the hypothetical.
Real quick, shout out to Fearless Orca Tactical and his channel. We appreciate you. Sorry, Rich, go ahead.
If I complete a 3D printed gun today in the state of Pennsylvania, and tomorrow they come out with this bill, what do I do with the 3D printed gun?
Well, I can answer this because I just did the research on it.
Okay. Go ahead.
If the bill passes, there is a 60-day window for you to have that serialized by an FFL, or you can turn it over to police to be destroyed.
Okay, so this is an AR-9. It's a Invader Zips Arc 1 design. There is no metal in it except for the barrel. Where would you serialize it? Because I know the ATF serialization requires you to serialize it on a metal part that's the receiver.
You would have to install a metal plate somewhere and print around that metal plate.
So if one already had an ARC, for an example, shout out to Invader Zip, if one already had an ARC,
that you'd be screwed.
and then this passed, you would either have to destroy it or modify it in some ridiculous way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of unknowns in this bill. You know, I mean, how does it really affect everything? You know, we discussed the part about the SIG. You know, so, you know, what, you know, could you order a receiver from SIG if it's not going to be serialized, right? Because it's a different part of the gun that is serialized. So there's a lot of things in this bill that not fully understood. But I think the bottom line is this. You know, if they're trying to ban something that we've had a right to do in this country since before the founding, was to build our own firearms, and you know, it's already illegal if you build your own firearm and you sell it to another person. It's already illegal to do that. Okay, you have to have a license to do that. So criminals and you can't be a prohibited person and make your own firearm and make a functional gun. You're already prohibited to do that too. So criminals are already violating the law by doing this. They're not going to stop them.
We have a question here. G-Web wants to know if you should be more concerned about ghost guns or zombie guns. You can't decide which one's more scary.
I think vampire guns are.
Oh yeah. Rice patty guns are terrifying too. I don't know if you guys have heard about those, but rice patty guns are. You don't even want to get into that one.
And another. If this bill does pass, when would it go into effect?
Yeah, I don't see a timeline on this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. You know, it could be immediately.
That's all up in the air, depending on when it passes and what they decide.
Right, but here's the thing: it'll pass the House and it's going to go into the Senate. More than likely, it's going to stay in the Senate Judiciary Committee and die there.
It should.
It should. Don't ever
cross your fingers.
That's right. You always got to keep an eye on it, right? So
the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act should have died in Congress too.
That's exactly right. And as I pointed out on one of my live streams that I did, it's like the Republicans will tell you all the time, we need our majority in order for us to defend your rights and get things done. And then when they're in the majority, they'll tell you we can't do it because we'll lose our majority. It's the same thing. And even when they're in the majority, let's go back to 2018, House Bill 2060, which was a PFA bill. If you had a protection from abuse order, a final PFA, you'd have to surrender your firearms in 24 hours. That went through in a Republican, both chambers being with a Republican majority. And let's not forget, Florida passed red flag gun confiscation orders in a Republican supermajority.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, but
it's not that you're safe because the Republicans are there. And then they said, well, we're your best chance. We're better than the Democrats. And I said, the only reason that we had red flags and UBCs pass in the House is because of 9 Republicans who turned, right? Now it's like their argument is we would never bring these up for a vote. And that's probably true, but it doesn't mean that it will never happen. Again, just go back to 2018 and it did happen. And God forbid, all there has to be is some kind of high profile, shooting or event or whatever. And, these, like I said, the lilies will wilt. Okay. Very quickly. We got a lot of squishes.
You brought up a good point about Florida, and Florida had a supermajority, but yet that supermajority passed a stupid law saying if I ship this to Rich, this is a PR trigger by our friends at PR Triggers, which is
interesting. I actually have sister company. This right here,
a sister company of JSD Supply, which you've worked with. If I was to ship this to Rich and Rich was to install this in his firearm, he would be breaking a law that was passed by a Republican supermajority.
John, just pass it through the screen to me.
60 days, guys. I just saw it at the end, Section 3. It would take place in 60 days after it was passed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dark.
You're welcome.
It's an empty box, but do you want it back?
Yeah, can you pass it to me?
Back.
Okay, sure.
Pass it to Crump, yeah. I threw mine off the table.
So you would have 2 months, I guess, to be in compliance, according to this. But it's so the act would take place within 60 days if it were passed. And like I said, all likelihood it's probably not going to go anywhere in the Senate, but we have to keep close eye on them about it.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean we don't try to fight it in the House. We fight it in the House. We want it defeated, and we put a enormous amount of pressure on the 9 Republicans since January, since I came back into the seat. We have not stopped. So that's we're hammering them left and right.
It used to be that you could predict the actions of certain politicians when I was younger, based on the side that they claimed to I don't even want to say it like that, based on the standards that they claim to represent. But now we're living in a completely different time, and the bottom of the sweater is frayed, and they're always going to pull at every single string that they can. It doesn't matter. I've seen um, any and all politicians grab at every single strand that they can and pull it away. And if have you guys ever seen like a piece of clothing where it starts to get pulled apart at the bottom? You can't just fix it, right? There's no way to truly fix it or repair it. It's destroyed. So I don't see any way from what they're doing in in all these different states, what they're doing in Chicago with Glocks. And you know what? I wonder how in the world tens of thousands of Glock switches could have ever made it into the country. That's crazy, because somebody like
You
Tate.
think there'd be something stopping illegal products from coming into the country? I couldn't think of what it would be.
Yeah, I don't know who would have had to have turned the other way for various reasons. I don't want to speak out of turn. It's really strange where where we are right now.
Logan Mano wants to know, what do you think their true reason is?
Power.
True reason for trying to ban homemade firearms
and homemade firearms and stuff like that. Ghost guns, scary.
Right. So the surface reason is crime in Philadelphia, which we know is a prosecution issue. It's not that. It's not the fact that there are homemade firearms in Philadelphia and people can make their own guns. The real reason is this is an assault on freedom, right? They want your freedom to go away, and this is a way to chip away at it. So they can eliminate another way of you making your own firearm without having a serial number, without doing an FFL background, doing a 4473 and buying a receiver. That's what they're trying to do. And then ultimately this does fit into UBCs, right? So if you have universal background checks, then the next step's registration. So now all your do-it-yourself kits, all of your P80, your P80 kits, your 80% lowers, all these things must be serialized for you to make your own gun. And then you have to get background checks on them, mandatory background checks. And then all of a sudden they'll say, this is not far-fetched. They'll say, we need to have registration for this to work. We have the Obama administration's Justice Department saying that in writing, that in order for UBCs to be effective, they recover a gun, a crime gun or something like that, they'll have to be able to trace it. In order to be able to trace it properly, they'll say they'll need to have registration. And so then we'll have registration in place. And once we have that, then we're like New Zealand. And guess what? Confiscation is just around the corner.
Yeah, UBC is always
the specter, and it's not a specter. It's not far-fetched. It happened in this country in New York in 1991. They used registration lists. They started in the 60s, and they seized guns in the early 1990s.
It also just reminds me, wasn't there a certain time in history when a particular type of people were stripped of their rights? They were told, hey, we just need to take your guns and we just need to notate the serial numbers. And for your safety, we need to keep you safe, right?
Right.
And then after that, they said, hey guys, sorry, the whole tracking and tracing thing just didn't work. We need all those guns. And then they took them.
And would you be talking about Wounded Knee, where they came back and slaughtered everyone?
Yeah, there's this is historically, this is constant,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing. Universal background checks always leads to registration, and registration always leads to confiscation.
Yes.
It's a step they take, but they don't want to say, hey, we want to confiscate the guns. They want to say, oh, we don't even want to register them. We just want to do background checks. And when they get the background checks, they're like, well, let's just register them. We don't want to confiscate them. And then once you let them register them, then it's like, let's take them.
Well, they don't even want to, trace guns. They only want to trace crime guns. Yeah.
until they make you a criminal for owning it, then all of a sudden it's a crime gun, right?
Bingo. Yep. And
Yeah.
Fearless Orca says ghost gun is not a thing. A ghost gun is not a thing. So I hope all you guys understand that, when we use the same
That that's why I
literature,
always say ghost guns like that, because I'm actually
yeah,
mocking them
a,
for
a
trying to
lot of
scare us.
us are gun builders. A lot of us consistently are building unserialized firearms, and it usually when we say things like that, we're either citing particular bills, or we're kind of memeing and mocking people that of opposing beliefs.
Yeah,
That's why we like
definitely.
to say homemade firearms, right? It's really,
Yeah.
you're building your own gun. Okay.
Hmm.
And another thing is they try to make this sound like it's easy to do. It does take some skill to do. It's not like
Hmm.
anybody can just do it.
Yeah.
And we even had our current governor, when he was attorney general, make a P80
Didn't he
kit.
hire somebody to make a gun for him
His own agents in the AG's office built it for the NBC reporter.
Hmm.
And then now the question is,
and transferred it?
did they transfer it? Did they do, so we wanted to put them under investigation, is like, did they break the law, Pennsylvania and federal law, for doing that?
Hmm.
And our illustrious Speaker of the House at the time, Brian Cutler, refused to do it. 5 gun rights groups, petitioned him to do so, and he refused to do that. And so Brian Cutler is in a primary right now with Dave Nisley, and we're backing Dave Nisley. We've had enough with Brian Cutler. So
Wow.
Who realized that they probably broke federal law?
who realized it?
Yeah, and notified all the gun organizations.
Would it have been AmmoLand?
It might have been someone at AmmoLand who did it.
I couldn't tell if you were.
I wonder
can
who
tell
that
by
would
the
be.
smile.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. If one of us did that could you imagine if one of us, with usually thousands and thousands of people looking at what we do, and we could likely say that there are some folks out there that watch us for different reasons.
Or read our
DTF
comments.
watches us. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Hello out there. But could you guys imagine if we on video had a felon build a gun, and now that's a different situation, but similar situation. Had a felon build a gun and then transfer it to somebody else, and especially in another state, and then
Mhm.
nothing happens?
Yeah, right.
We
Exactly.
would all go to jail. All of us.
And so Cutler was saying, well, you need to go to the district attorney. Oh, right. Oh, that'll really work well.
That'll go. That's funny.
The
Right.
OCR or the 4473s, they turn it off, but it's like if you have Adobe,
Yeah.
you know how to turn it on. It's like 2 clicks. That's
We did it.
They're stored. Yeah, we did it live on stream in
Yeah.
15 seconds. And they're being stored in Martinsburg, West Virginia, at the 244. What is it?
244 Needy Road. Yeah,
Needy Road.
244 Needy Road. You have
Martinsburg,
to,
West Virginia. There you go.
yeah,
There's
Martinsburg.
the
You have to
exact
put
address.
NFA branch. Just if you want to write a letter.
Yeah, definitely. So, why do you think certain other groups decided are not pushing as hard back against this? There's P-Tang from JSD Supply.
Oh,
Love
so
P-Tang.
missed you, Colonel. Thank you.
That's a Bob.
Yeah. So here's the reason, and then you mentioned it earlier when you talked about being access based versus confrontational. So we have other gun rights groups, in quotation marks, who believe that it's all inside baseball, and they listen to what the Republicans in this case are telling them, and giving cover to the people who voted for the UBCs and red flags last year, working with them, trying to play the game on their turf. And when you do that, it turns around and it bites you. I mean, I'm sure that was done last year, and they got UBCs and red flags out of it. So that's the reason they don't want to put any pressure on them. As a matter of fact, one group sent out an email, and they here's what their email said to do: to contact the speaker, which is Joanna McClinton, and the majority leader Bradford and the Democratic House Judiciary Chair Briggs, and to put pressure on them. Hey, I got news for you. That falls on deaf ears completely. There is no leverage at all on those people. Okay, we don't have any leverage on them. Okay, and to think, and the reason they're going after them is because I'm almost certain of it. The Republicans said, "Oh, put pressure on them. Yeah, they're the ones running the bill. Put the pressure on them." But here's the problem with that: you'll never be able to change the mind or the vote of a Joanna McClinton, of a Bradford, of a Briggs, or any of those, Democratic leadership. They are lock, stock, sold out to Michael Bloomberg. They're sold out to Ceasefire PA. They're never going to listen to you. Okay. And the only way the Democrats get that bill passed, the only way they get it passed is with Republican support. This is a fact. And they don't like that because that means we have to put pressure on the 9 Republicans for them to hold the line. And so I don't listen to what they tell me. Okay, because if you listen to what they tell you, it's always to try to play the game on their turf. We know what we need to do, okay, because we've been doing this for a long time. And if we put pressure on the politicians and they get constituent mail, the number one thing politicians hate is what? Angry voters. Mm-hmm. They don't like angry voters because why? Hey, guess what? If we piss off 3% plus 1, we could lose the next primary, the next election. So they want to deflect it to somebody else. Go after the Democrats. Go after them. They're worse than us. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but you're the ones responsible for it. Okay. And so that's what happens. So they play the game on their turf and they said, put pressure on the Democrats. Look, you might as well talk to the wall. Okay. It's not going to happen. Now, it's not to say there aren't some Democrats you cannot influence in the House. There certainly are. We have one pro-gun Democrat left, Frank Burns. I think he's more than likely going to vote with us. I hope so. All right. I visited his office 2 times in the last couple of days. I'll be back in the Capitol tomorrow. And there may be 1 or 2 others we might be able to put a little bit of pressure on, but I'm not very hopeful about it, to be honest with you. Okay. The last 2 bills that passed in 2023, all the Democrats except for Frank Burns voted for it. It may be a replay of that. So how much leverage do you really have on them when the caucus in Pennsylvania is really driving them to do it? So wasting your time talking to the leadership. The problem is the 9 Republicans. So instead, they play the axis game, they deflect it, and they give them cover. And so when they give them cover, then that's like rewarding bad behavior. If your child does something wrong and you're a parent, what do? Do you let the child get away with it?
You give them candy and say, "Great job."
Right? No. You teach them a lesson. Right. You say you have to punish them in a certain way. It's got to fit whatever it was. And so that they learn not to do it. So this is it's like training a dog. Okay. Mm-hmm. I like to look at it as training a dog. So we're training them to basically, it's like, if you vote wrong, this is going to be the consequence. And then we connect what happens in legislative season with election season. So we're primarying Brian Cutler. And one of the things we're using is his vote on HB 2060 in 2018. We're going after John Lawrence in House District 13 for his vote on HB 2060. And you can go back 2 years ago, Stan Saylor and Keith Gillespie, we took them out in that primary in part based on their vote on 2060. We spent a lot of money in those 2 races and they were gone. And so that we call it the wolf hide on the barn. So we got 2 wolf hides on the barn 2 years ago, and I hope we can put another one up. And so you got to do it. You got to get involved in a primary. And it's, if you vote wrong, if you got a primary opponent and it's in a district that can be winnable, we are going to support that opponent if you voted for gun control. Now, granted, we don't have unlimited resources. We have to be selective in what we do. But there has to be a connection between what they do in legislative season and what happens in an election. And we connect those 2 ends very well all the time. And that's what they fear. They fear angry voters because they can lose an election. That's a death for a politician. So they fear political death, of which is a primary if they lose in a primary. So that's what we drive at. Okay. And this is the way you train them. Okay. So look, hey, man, gosh, I got hit, and then now they're primary. Look, you see what they did? They primaried Saylor and Gillespie, and now they're gone. They get the message that way. If you just attack them in legislative season and you don't follow up and primary them or do something in election season, then they learn that there's no consequence. So you have to follow through with it.
It's true accountability.
That's exactly right. It's the way our system is designed. And they want to convince you that that doesn't work. Well, no, that's exactly how our system is designed.
It's always
like,
worked.
if we can replace you at any time. So our vote is our message to the 9 Republicans, anybody else for that matter, okay, who votes for gun control, is this. It's like he says, you either give us your vote or you give us your seat. That's the bottom line.
Question: is GOA friendly with FPC? They're not friendly with them. There's
Right.
There's no conflict or anything between the groups. And SAF, GOA works with.
May I,
California a lot.
as an outsider, as a someone completely unaffiliated with any gun group, may I say something that just
Sure.
an observation?
Sure.
Here's what I've noticed. The GOA is 100% completely no compromise. They're not unfriendly with any groups that I know of. However, if they ever had to work with other groups, I think they'd be absolutely open to do that because they're not willing to compromise on their end goal, which is freedom, independence, liberty, and the preservation of your natural rights. So you could kind of, put that together.
Yeah, well, I mean, FPC, SAF, GOA, California Pistol Rifle Association, gun owners of California have been working together out in California for a while now. So there you go.
Right. Our system of confrontational politics was actually codified by Senator H.L. Richardson, who was the founder of Gun Owners of America. He was a California state senator. And he taught us back in the 70s how politics really works, how the machinations behind the scenes, how it actually works. You're not going to argue your way to victory, right? Politicians care about political facts. They don't really care about technical facts. Now, that's not to say that if you're our allies in the legislature say, hey, Val, I need some talking points for this bill. Okay, obviously we give them talking points for our bills. If they need it, we give it to them. But overall, they're concerned about political facts. So when I walked in the office the last 2 days, and I say, hi, my name's Val Fennell, I'm Pennsylvania Director for Gun Owners of America. We want to make sure that, Representative Gatos votes against HB 77. Here's my card. And the secretary's behind the desk. And what does she do? She takes my card and she looks, yeah, we've been getting emails about this. And, I'm keeping a tally of everything that comes in. And I'm seeing that we're getting a lot of messages from you. Bingo. Mm-hmm. You see? And they'll tell you, oh, we don't pay attention to those things. They'll tell you to your face they don't pay attention to it. It's not being effective. If that's the case, then why is the secretary keeping a tally of all the things that are coming in? And it's because why? Because they don't want, if they're getting too much heat, they're going to back off and they're going to do what we want to do, which is either vote for a pro-gun bill or it's going to be to defeat an anti-gun bill. They do keep track of it. So the debate is always, what works better? Do we write a letter? Do we send an automatic email message pre-filled out or postcard? Look, it all works, right? But what you really have to do is make things easy for people. If you tell people, pick up a phone, call, write a letter, most people, one, they don't read their email to begin with, okay? And the second thing is, are they going to have the time to do that? Of course not. But they do have a time to click our take action button and type their name and address in. And guess what? That is constituent mail from their district that representative or that state senator gets. And they get the message on that, and they do keep tally of it. So, I was told by other gun groups, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, is that so? Because every office I've gone into, and I'm not exaggerating, they have it, they're keeping the tally.
Well, it's always the secretaries or the people
usually the aides.
They're getting bogged down. Which
right, they're keeping the tally because they know if they're getting too much heat, they're going to have to back off. And again, you got to remember something. It's unfortunate. I remember growing up. I grew up in the Pittsburgh area. I'm from McKees Rocks. And so back when I was growing up in Allegheny County, we had a lot of pro-gun Democrats. All right, and there's like one or two left. We still have some leverage on them, but for the most part, and this is true virtually everywhere in the country now, they've been replaced by leftists, right? And they're ideologically committed to violating our constitutional rights. So it's a complete and utter waste of time to lobby Joanna McClinton. It's a complete, utter waste of time to hit the House Majority Leader Bradford or Tim Briggs, who's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee for the Democrats. Total waste of time. Now, the only way it would work is if a majority of people in their district told him, but it's not going to work that way. Their districts are very Democratic. All right. And, the area that they're in, there's not a lot of leverage on them. It would really take a mass revolt of the Democrats in their district to basically say, back off and we don't want gun control. Now, there may be a limit to what they'll do. Okay. They may say, well, we can't go too far, or even our constituents will get upset at us. But when it comes to these basic things, they're really not going to listen to us. It's unfortunate because I remember another time. I remember when there were conservative Democrats. I remember when there were pro-gun Democrats, a lot of them, but it's not too many of them anymore. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I linked the article that I wrote for AmmoLand. It is now live.
Thank you. I'll be posting that.
Yeah. So it is now live. So hopefully we'll get that information out there, because it's very important that we actually stand up and fight back against these bills. Because even if you don't 3D print firearms, or you don't, build P80s or whatnot, it's just the beginning. They will come after. They'll work their way up the tree. They'll go for the low hanging fruit and work their way up. That's right.
Well, and also, even if you're not in Pennsylvania, it's really sad to see it going all the way back to, bump stock bans. People were like, oh yeah, I heard about that, but I don't use bump stocks. So why would I care? Why would I get involved? Same thing. I'm not in Chicago. Why would I care? Why would I get involved? Why would I study up on it? I'm not in Pennsylvania. Guys, look across the United States. Look at all the attacks on your natural rights, which, by the way, the federal government, their only job is to preserve and protect your natural rights. Right. And, clearly.
Which they seem to be doing the opposite.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So get involved, be aware, stay aware. And I would recommend that everyone take the motto of the GOA, no compromise.
Gun Day morning quarterback.
I love that name. That's cool.
Mention his book, Rule for Thee: How Gun Control Goes from the Just to the RT. So go ahead and check that out. If you have a link, you can send it over and I'll share it out. If you have like an Amazon link, whatever. Hit me up on Twitter, I guess, or whatever.
So if you're in Pennsylvania, read the article, follow the action alert link that we have, and fill it out and send it in. Like I said, even if you in it, so I hear a lot of people are really negative, and they say, you know what, I live in one of those districts where they don't really have a lot of influence. Why should I even bother? Well, you should still send them a message, right? And here's the reason why. It isn't the fact that you're going to change their mind, all right? Especially on something like a House Bill 777. But here's what they will do: if there's too much pushback, and it goes to the rank and file Democrats, right? Then the leadership will look at that. It's not them; it's the rank and file, and they say, "Look, I'm getting a lot of heat in my district," and they think they can't pass that bill because they don't have enough votes. Then they'll never be for you, but they won't run the bill. They'll take it off the table, right? I don't think that's going to happen in this case. So because tomorrow they're going to vote on it. Apparently, a bill can go over at any time. That I've seen that happen, but apparently they're going to run it tomorrow and it'll be the final vote. Okay. So it's misdirected to try to lobby the leadership directly. But the way it is, if you live in one of those districts and your state representative is against you, yes, please fill it out. And the reason is the leadership whips their state representatives in their caucus. The Democrats whip their members, their House members in their caucus. And if and they call back and they say, look, I'm getting a lot of heat in my district, and it's an election year, I don't want to deal with this, they'll take it off the table. That's the way it works. They're never going to be for you. They're never going to vote the right way if it comes up for a vote. But that's the only hope. So it's like you still need to let your representative know, even if they're against you, right? but it's very misguided to target your efforts to try to change the mind of the people who are ramming us down your throat. You know, they're sold out to Bloomberg. They're sold out to Ceasefire PA. They're sold out to every town. They're sold out to them. They're bought and paid for. You're not going to influence them. All right. And you put the pressure on the fulcrum and on the leverage points where you actually have influence. And that is this. If those 9 Republicans hold the line, if Frank Burns, that lone pro-gun Democrat in Pennsylvania, holds the line, then they got, at best, they got a tie vote, and then McClinton would have to break the tie. So we'll see how it turns out tomorrow. Let's see if the rumors are true and see if the Republicans are going to hold the line.
Okay, so Ron Baer wants to know when this take effect. It would be 60 days after passage.
Yes, 60 days.
Also, there was another question that I saw a while ago. I meant to bring it up, but I didn't. Who are the 9?
Oh, that's right. That's a good question. And I'll come back to that.
Who are the 9?
If you know,
right.
The 9 Republicans that are a problem.
Most anti-gun groups get their money from like Bloomberg and stuff. Logan.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let me I'll give you the whole list here momentarily. So while I'm pulling that up.
While Val pulls that up, Ron Bayer, we did touch on this earlier, the gun makers match, and yes, it would
go
absolutely.
not this year because it's less than 60 days.
I got it. Yeah. So here's the 9. Rob McCurry, House District 28. So he is running for Congress in PA 17. Valerie Gatos, who's been very vocal with me about how great and how pro-gun she is. Evidently, she voted for gun control, so I don't know how pro-gun you could be for voting for gun control. Valerie Gatos in House District 44. Cheryl Delosier, who's my state rep, House District 88. Craig Williams, who's running for Attorney General, House District 160. Incidentally, Brian Cutler endorsed him for Attorney General, and so Brian Cutler is endorsing an anti-gun candidate for Attorney General. Natalie Mihalik, House District 40. Kristen Marcel, House District 178. Joe Hogan, House District 142, Kathleen Tomlinson, HD 18, and then Martina White, House District 170. So those are the bad actors. And if you go to our Facebook page, we have a nice graphic. We call it the Naughty 9. And so these are the Naughty 9.
Yeah, you guys ran into a little bit of controversy when you pulled endorsements.
Yeah, how
Some people got really upset about that. I mean, I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about other people.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the case. So if you vote wrong, we're going to pull your endorsement. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. It's endorsements are not a perfect process by any stretch of the imagination. Some people start out good and they stray. Look at Pat Toomey. He was one that did that. Started out decent and ended up straying. Right. So it's not a perfect process. Sometimes, sometimes it doesn't go right. And so, but if you vote wrong and you vote for gun control, especially on something as big as UBCs, which is one of the main things we fight nationwide at GOA, UBCs, red flags, and then, these parts ban, assault weapons bans, semi-auto bans, gun bans, and now these build kit bans. These are the main bills that we try to fight, but UBCs are at the top of the list. Okay. And if you vote for UBCs, that's really bad. So we dropped them. Not only did we revoke their endorsement, but we dropped them 2 letter grades. So like Valerie Gatos went from an A to a C. Natalie Mihalik, and these are some people who supported us in the past. They went from an A to a C. Okay. And then unfortunately we did not have many endorsements that were wrong. We only had to pull 2. And, but we will pull the endorsements. And, those are, again, it's not a perfect process. I wish it was, but it isn't.
You can never tell what someone's going to do in the future.
That's exactly right.
You can make an educated guess, but
they're endorsed until they're not.
But this is, this is the best way to do it. You're actually, basing your decisions based off of people's actions as opposed to what they say. And this is, like I said, this is true accountability,
Right. And let me make something really clear to everybody too. So the endorsement process should always involve a survey. So, even if it's an incumbent, somebody who's been voting and been there for maybe 2 years, 4 years, whatever, and if they have not been previously endorsed by us, we still send them a survey. And the reason is that not all these votes come up in the House or the Senate, so we don't know where they stand on homemade firearms bans until we ask them that question. We don't know where they stand on strengthening firearms preemption, although that one did come up. And there's other, like we have a question there about banning 50 calibers. Okay, so we don't know where they stand on that unless a bill comes up. So we survey them, and we of course we want them to get a perfect score. We want them to be 100%, and then we look at, if they're an incumbent, we look at their voting record. So between their voting record and the survey, so a good survey is a foundational program, part of your program for endorsements and for those kind of things. So even if they've been an incumbent, if we don't have a survey on file, we want it, because there's all kinds of questions on there about bills that may never come up.
Yeah, when I was a director of Virginia for Gun Owners of America, we've had some politicians that we love your endorsement, but we don't want to go on the record and fill this out. And we're like, well, we can't endorse you then. Sorry.
They can go pound sand. Okay, so we have an attorney general race. One, I mentioned Craig Williams. Craig Williams is anti-gun. Okay, he likes to parade out his I'm a Marine, I was in combat, I was a Marine. Okay, I'm a retired Air Force colonel. Thank you very much for your service. That's great. Guess what? You are a state representative now. You are running for attorney general. And now you have bad votes. You voted for gun control. You took an oath of office, just like I did, to support the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? You took an oath to support the Constitution, and now you say, oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, guess what, Craig? We're going to call you out on it.
Dude, I love you.
I'm sorry. Guess what, Craig? We're going to call you out on it. So, we don't need to get a survey on Craig Williams. We know where Craig Williams stands. He's very weak. He's very anti-gun. But the other candidate in the race is Dave Sunday. And to your point, John, to date, he has not answered our survey. So we hammered him. We sent a statewide alert out. There's like 600 plus, 700 plus more messages that are coming in all the time in his campaign, to answer our survey. And you know what he told us? He said, we're working on it. I want to check with some of my law enforcement thing about how law enforcement allies and how to answer this survey. That screams weakness to me.
Yeah.
Okay. It screams weakness to me. And it's like, and we have candidates like our U.S. Senate candidate, Dave McCormick, who is not answering any surveys, evidently. Okay. And so we've been asking him to answer GOA survey, and they gave us a hard no. We're not answering anybody's surveys at all. And which is fascinating, because 2 years ago in the primary, he lost to Oz by just maybe I think it was like 500 votes or something like that, maybe 900 votes. Right. And he refused to answer our survey 2 years ago. And it's like, if he did well on the survey and we ended up endorsing Dave McCormick, he could have won that primary against Oz. All right. And so now it's like, it's one of these things. Do you learn? Do you learn from the past? Do you learn from your mistakes? Or is it that you just keep on making the same mistakes over? I know when you run for office, your IQ drops by 20 points at least, is what they say. Yeah. So maybe Dave McCormick had a 40-point drop in his IQ or something like that. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes in the past, you're just destined to repeat them again, right?
Usually,
and so, look, we're not going to hand out an endorsement to you. You know what he told us? We'll meet with you one-to-one, and we'll go through the survey verbally, but we don't want to write anything down. That is a big warning sign to anybody, because verbal promises are worthless. Worthless. Okay. So it has to be written down, and otherwise you're not going to get it. Now, the federal office does what they want with this, they manage this. I don't, but I would be surprised if, GOA would give him an endorsement without having a survey. It's our, like John says, it's our policy that you answer the survey. Otherwise, we really have no way to understand where you stand. And I told Dave Sunday's campaign the same thing for Attorney General. We have no idea where you stand. You could say you're for the Second Amendment till the cows come home. Valerie Gatos was for the Second Amendment. Oh my gosh, she's better Second Amendment supporter than I am. Yet she voted for UBCs to register your guns eventually. Oh, that's excellent, Valerie. Thank you very much for that.
I'm not going to say what about. I met with when I was. Okay,
I was thinking the same thing. Just be cautious.
Northam. We met with not Northam. Sorry, Youngkin. We met with Youngkin's campaign, and we were talking. I'm the most pro-gun candidate ever in Virginia. I was like,
Oh,
well, you
yeah.
got to answer the survey then. Well, we're not going to answer any surveys. It's like,
Yes,
I'm sorry, but we can't endorse you
that's
Yeah.
unless
correct.
you answer the
But
survey. I mean,
he came back. I'll give him credit though. He vetoed every.
well, not everyone that's up, but yeah, but he's expected to veto all the ones that are left.
Yeah. I was very surprised. I thought this was going in a completely different direction because of what I knew about that, and because he has future political aspirations as well. Sorry, Crump, go ahead.
But
Yeah, always be
you
afraid of the
cannot.
climbers, like Rob McCurry. You know, when they want to run for a higher office, they'll be willing to compromise and sell out in order to, garner the support of the establishment. So we're not looking for climbers because that's a warning sign. That means their ambition to virtue scale is out of whack. They're more ambitious than they're going to be virtuous for us in office.
All right. Well, we've been on for an hour. I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us about it. I was going to do like a video about it, but then I figured, you know what? It would be better if we have the GOA representative from Pennsylvania come on and talk to us about it and answer any questions out there, and just do like a live with the audience and everything else. And I think it went really well. So
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, you guys know where to follow DLD After Dark on YouTube. DLD Hardware, just Google that. They Flying Rich Firearms, Flying Rich on YouTube. Val, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us where you want everyone to go and follow you.
Yeah, so
and
in
where they can
addition
find
to
out
that
more
link you
information on
have,
what's going on.
yeah, in addition to the link you mentioned, John, you could just go to pennsylvania.gunowners.org and you'll see the alert there. There's a picture of a P80 kit on it, or you can go to our Facebook page where the handle is GOA Pennsylvania. If you go to our GOA Pennsylvania Facebook page, you'll see it on there in the pin section. And if you just click on that link that has the P80 kit, it'll take you to the alert, and you could send a message to your state rep.
And GOA is definitely 100% behind the builder community. You can check with like JSD Supply, you can check with Defense Distributor, you can check with any of the companies, 80% Arms, they'll all tell you that, when Jordan first started getting into his stuff with other organizations and stuff, GOA 100% backed them. And that's,
Yep.
Indeed, and he was assaulted by Attorney General Shapiro in a deal to try to get P80 kits banned from Eagle Arms shows back then.
Then he bought the gun show.
And then he bought the gun show. I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
You
Eagle
gotta
Arms,
love that.
like, no, you can't come to the show. Oh, you bought it?
It's like the Cadillac dealer that wouldn't sell Michael Jordan the Cadillac, so he bought the dealership and fired the guy that wouldn't sell him.
It's definitely some straight up G stuff.
All right, guys, that is it. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a happy Holy Week. Happy Holy Week to you, Val. Have a happy Easter.
Yep.
Have a good Friday, Holy Thursday, and all those other dates. And just remember what it's all about. And we'll see you guys later.